Welcome back, Immigrant Nation. Another week, another new episode. I'm your host, Aaron Deliosa, and this is an Immigrant's Life podcast. And you can reach us on all the social media. Our handle is An Immigrant's Life, and you can email us at animmigrantslife@yahoo.com. If you or someone you know wants to come on the podcast and tell their stories, you can send a message through those different pathways. And for the new ones, this podcast is where we engage in meaningful conversations and share stories of people impacted by immigration. I'm here to listen and foster discourse that encourages exploration of diverse perspectives, leaving you, my listeners, to form your own conclusions through storytelling. So this Sunday, my team and I, that I coach with my youngest, played our playoffs. We won the semifinals and then went to the finals, but unfortunately, we lost. It was hard because we were the favorites. We were the number one team. We only lost 2 games and we played, I believe, 15 games. And those 2 games weren't even complete. It was hard, failing. As much as you want to sugarcoat it, we failed, It was hard seeing my child crying and just devastated because he really put his heart out. He was amazing. I was so proud of him. I mean, he played so hard, but unfortunately, there was a lot of factors that didn't play for us. And, it is what it is. A lot of lessons was learned this season, especially from me on my side. I've been coaching for a long time, and that's the beauty of coaching. You always learn about new things, and we just have to improve, Overall, was it a failed season? Not really. I think we did a great job. Despite all the challenges, we were really a good team. And, I'm not going to lie. I thought we were going to win the championship, but, it is what it is. I'm proud of the boys. I'm proud of my kid. And I think I'm proud of myself, too, for making those boys believe that they can do things that they thought they're incapable of. And I hope I made them better people. And I hope I imparted some food for thoughts for them that they would carry for the rest of their lives. And so that's the personal update. How about let's talk about this week's episode? In this episode, we are joined by a brilliant futures designer. Together, we delve into the future of AI, discussing how to prepare for its impact, avoid purposeless technologies, and redefine progress. You'll hear about her personal experiences in Prague as a Filipina-American, discover her workshops with an innovative process that she calls the phenomenon method, and gain insight into her perspective on enjoying the present while preparing for the future. So continue with what you're doing and immerse yourself in this conversation while I get straight to the point. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a futures designer that aims to create positive futures by designing through joy. Everyone, please welcome Ruth Isabel Guerra.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Before we move on, why don't you tell the Immigrant Nation where they can reach you or if you want to promote anything?
Sure. So I'm pretty active on my Instagram, and you can find me at Ridguerra, so RIDGUERA. I post mostly videos on design and design thinking, futures thinking. So if you're interested in any of those areas, definitely find me there. I also host workshops, which are open to the general public. So it doesn't matter where you are, they're hosted in English. You can register for those workshops on my Instagram. So basically just find me on Instagram.
Excellent. I like figuring out what people's handles are on social media. I'm going to guess that D in your RID is your middle name.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm smart
Correct.
sometimes, By the way, Your last name is probably one of my favorite last name of all time.
Oh
It's so
yeah.
badass.
I know. There's actually a funny story with that. Like my sister, so I have an older sister and we were both in the same sorority
Mm.
in college and my like sorority nickname was World War II because I was the second Guerra coming to the sorority. So yeah.
That is so clever. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, my sister came up with it. She really fought for that one.
Okay, that's cool. And people just start calling you like WW1 or 2.
I was just like something to put on like a shirt, just like a
Yeah,
fun thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
By the way, which part of Philippines were you from?
So my mom is from the kind of Manila area. She spent time in Manila, but also Los Baños. And then
Ooh,
my
I love it there.
dad is from Batangas.
Oh, beautiful
So
places, man.
yeah.
I love
But
it.
funny, I haven't actually been back since we left the Philippines. So it's been
When did you
like
leave?
uh over 20 years ago, like 24
Wow.
years ago, and I haven't been able to go back.
You don't have the connection or?
Well, part of it was like timing. It was like with school, and also obviously you want to be there when like your cousins are on break, and the breaks in the US and the Philippines never align because summer, winter, you know. And then it was just like with work, and then my family went there when right after I had my wedding, and it was like I couldn't take more time off after my wedding, and it's just like was never lined up. But I'm hoping in the next like year or two I get to go back. That would be awesome.
Yeah, you have to recharge that ancestral batteries.
Exactly, yeah.
Are you close to the culture?
I would say more like a Filipino-American. Uh, I definitely like still try to keep up with things on social media, like especially with like politics right now, wanting
Why
to.
would you stress yourself?
I think it's important, I think it's important to know what's happening there and like the history, the Philippines has gone through such tumultuous political history and it's like kind of happening again. I think it's like really important to talk about because we're seeing rewriting of history happening in the Philippines and so we need people to like actually say this is not how it happened at all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think
It's
it's just
sad.
yeah, it's just good to be in the know.
Yeah, I get it. How old were you when you moved to the States?
I was 8.
Hmm.
And now I'm 30, so it's been a while.
you know, and now you're in Prague.
I'm in Prague, yes.
When did you move there?
My husband and I have been here over 2 years now. I'd say 2.5 years. So we moved here because I went back to school for my grad program, and I studied design here. And actually, my husband is a dual citizen of the US and Poland. So it was quite easy for us to, well, relatively so, but it was easier for us to move here and I didn't have to worry about like student visa and like I could still work here and stuff. So that's why we're still here, even though I've already graduated. And no, not in a rush at all to go back to the US. We're gonna take our sweet time in Europe. So yeah.
So in the end, you're planning to go back, or?
I think so. I mean, both of our like immediate families are there. My mom and dad, my sister, and then his mom and dad and his siblings. So it just makes sense to be closer to family, and we don't really know many people here in Prague. So yeah, eventually we'll slowly make our way back to the US, I think.
Yeah, I don't understand those people like, oh, I don't want to hang out with my family.
Mhm.
I'm like, yo, that's your people, man.
I think it changes the older you get. Like now that I'm like thinking about starting a family, we don't have kids, but we're definitely talking about it seriously now. It's like you want your kids to grow up with family, you want like them. We would like for our kids to be trilingual. I want them to speak Tagalog. He wants them to speak Polish. And like, what better way to do that than having all the family together and have our parents be speaking to our kids and hang out with our kids and like understanding their culture. So yeah, I think if you asked me this question maybe like 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, I'm like moving abroad permanently, starting my life over. But I think the older that I get, I'm like, I want to be closer to my family for sure.
For sure. Oh, by the way, just I guess an advice that you never ask for. If you want your kid, your future kid, to learn Tagalog, it's gonna be you. The mom has to be
Yeah,
pushing
I
it.
know.
You know that saying, mother tongue.
Yeah,
That means so much.
literal.
Yeah, it literally. If the mom speaks whatever language, the kids will speak it. Because I speak Tagalog to my kids when I was younger. These idiots didn't pick anything.
You never tried to like force them, just like, I'm not switching to English. I'm just going to speak to you and you have to deal with it.
The thing, it's also obviously my fault because I always loved English. Even when in the
Yeah.
Philippines, I was like, I felt like I expressed myself better in English.
Yeah, for me, like I can understand Tagalog really well. Speaking is harder for me. I think if I really I think it's more of an anxiety thing. Like I feel like I don't sound good speaking Tagalog and then I start freaking out and I'm like, I'll just switch to English. It's way easier. But my parents, they always spoke to me in Tagalog. So I understand it. And now even here in Prague, when I hear the titas, the chismes from the titas, I can hear from like a mile away, and I'm like, I'm glad I still know this language.
I love what you said that because here in Quebec we speak French, English, and then there's different languages, right? I
Yeah,
love how it could be the faintest sound, and you know the code, and you understand. Oh, they speaking Tagalog or they speaking English.
yeah,
If you understand the code, you're good. Like it could be
yeah,
the faintest sound.
yeah. And I think to me that's the test of fluency. Like that's how I know I still like very much comprehend Tagalog when I can hear it in like a huge crowd and I know exactly what they're saying from like a mile away. So yeah.
I know you're a designer. Does that fluency with different language help you? And how do you apply that to your designs?
Yeah, I think it's more of like kind of the multicultural background because now living in Prague, I've lived on four continents now because I was actually born in Australia. So born in Australia, I grew up in the Philippines till I was 8 and then, spent the rest of the time growing up in the States and now I'm here. So I think when I approach design, it's really from a lens of like different identities and different cultures and thinking about how the designs we create affect different types of people. Um, so yeah, I think the kind of multiculturalness really like shows up in a lot of the work that I do and the things that I think about.
Always having more perspective obviously always help. What exactly do you design? Do you design signs or what do you exactly do?
Yeah, so my master's program was in future design. It's a combination of design thinking. So there's kind of this process of design that is quite popular in the design world, and it's the design thinking process. So it's a combination of that and also futures thinking. So looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future and thinking about what are our needs in the future, but also what are our future challenges and trying to come up with designs now in order to address future us, basically. And I think it's like so relevant, especially right now. We're facing so many like complex world issues. Like we're facing climate issues. We're also uh, we're also facing like with COVID, right? It just made all of the problems so much more apparent and worse. So I think we're kind of and with technology as well with AI, and that's a whole separate subject. But we're facing a lot of issues and things right now. So my and all of that as a designer is in design research. So um, rather than me designing objects or things myself, I'm facilitating processes, methods, tools in order for communities and basically everyone to be able to design futures that we want. So I see my work as more of a facilitator rather than kind of more the traditional designer.
how do you get end up doing like future designs master? I'm like, I don't, bro. Before I got to your account, I'm like, there's a thing called future design. Me, I thought like people just design things, you know?
Yeah, and you know it's funny. I actually got a DM just today that was like, "Hey, I just found your account. I think it's really cool, but I have no idea what it is you do. Like, I really this is like over my head, but I want to learn more." And I was the same way too. When I like before I started looking at master's programs, I thought design really was like graphic design, UX, UI design, like product design, and like that's it, right? But the whole like design thinking world was foreign to me, and I was like, you can actually just be a thought person in this and like have different ideas of how to do design, and that's a discipline in itself. Like there are other things called like speculative design. So what they do is they just it's kind of in tandem with like futures design. So they speculate on what the future, a possible future could be, and sometimes it's like designing objects from the future. So like there's a subset of that design fiction that's like, let's design objects that could exist in the future based on like what's happening now and the trends that are happening now in order for us to reflect on this and think about, do we like this future? You know, how did we get here? How does it affect other things in our future? So yeah, there's a whole world of design that I'm still learning myself because there's just like, yeah, endless possibilities there.
Like when we first exchanged DMs, when you posted that design thing for the sidewalk there, that it's not a ramp.
Uh-huh.
I forgot the
Yeah,
word.
the curb cut.
Yeah, I'm like, people think of this shit. Me, yo, this is how I thought. Okay, I was like, I mean, it's common sense. Just do the thing. Like somebody explain it to someone, but you have to explain it in a very intelligent way.
You know, I get so much crap on that post though sometimes because people are like, curb cuts suck. There's better ways to do this. And I'm like, you've missed the point. Like, there are people who didn't even know this existed. Okay. So that's the whole point of this video is like, hey, design is all around us. Like, the things that we take for granted every single day, someone had to create that. Someone had to like fight for that. That was like a whole design choice. So, yeah, part of the reason why I made that video is reflecting my own journey in design is like having my eyes open to things that were designed for people and for reasons and I just never knew and I always took for granted. So I think it's important that we open our eyes to that stuff.
Yeah, like you helped me a lot, like looking at things. Like my reference to you was the 99% Invisible
Yeah.
podcast, which I love that podcast. Sometimes it gets crazy, but most of the time it's awesome. Like, because they talk about like simple designs.
Yeah. There's an episode on the curb cut. Did you hear that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I listened to it actually recently and I'm like, this is still good. Like I'm still learning stuff in this episode. And I did a whole video on the curb cut, but there's like a whole other thing. They even said this might be interesting to you. You know how in like football or American Canadian football when like they huddle, right? And like they had this group huddle. Did you know that came from a practice for universities that had deaf students. So they when they would talk to each other, they had to sign, right? And so in order for the other team not to see their signing, they huddled. And the practice
Hmm,
just stayed. Because
that's
there's no
amazing.
reason to huddle if you're like all the way across the field. They can't hear what you're saying,
Yeah,
right?
I mean you
Like
can sign, but then other people will see it.
yeah, but the signing, other people can see it, but the talking, no. So, like, abled people, you could just not huddle and just talk, right? But the practice of huddling still stayed. I had no idea, and that was from the 99 Invisible episode, and I was like, I'm still learning stuff all the time.
Yeah, me too, man. I love those little things, and like, you think it's just it happened? Like a great example, I watched this documentary about this guy who quote unquote invented the jump shot in basketball. So if you don't know, like someone will jump and shoot the ball, right?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Entire my whole life, I've been seeing that move.
Yeah.
You would think that came with the game, right?
Yeah.
Nope. There's
But
a guy that invented the stupid move.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that like it opens your mind to like the simple thing, like crosswalks. when you look at the crosswalk, when you press the button
Yeah.
to cross, there's like braille there. Like, yo,
There's also the ticking, right?
yes, the ticking too,
So then
which
you
it used
know.
to drive me nuts. But then, like, oh, this is for the blind.
Yeah, but honestly, it's actually good too if you're like waiting at a crosswalk and you're on your phone. You don't even have to look. You just hear the ticking and you're
Whoa,
like, I have to
whoa.
stop and walk.
You should not be on the phone
I'm
crossing the
not, but
road.
I'm waiting on the curb, right, for it to turn green. And I'm on my phone and then I hear it and then I put my phone away and walk.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you put your phone away. All right.
no, I actually really don't. I did a whole research study on that actually in my master's program of accidents that people get when they're using their phone. And everyone I interviewed like 10 students, and all of them said that they've gone into mild to moderate accidents while on their phone. One girl even ran into there's this thing here in Prague where cars will park on the sidewalk, and she literally ran into a car while she was on her phone. And I asked them, has this changed the way you use your phone when you're walking around the city? And all of them say no, right? So I'm like, there's a design thing here because we're so addicted to our phones that we will get into physical accidents, actually hurt ourselves, and we still won't change our behavior. Like, so
drug
yeah,
addicts.
I know.
We're all drug addicts.
Obsessed with their phones for sure.
I like, like I hate it, and it's like part of your life now.
Yeah.
What's your opinion about those older people that says, "Oh, back in the days we don't have those. We just use TV or whatever."
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every generation has this. Like, when will become like a more common thing, we're going to be like, back in the day, we did this by hand, and now you're just staring at a computer screen to do it for you. So I think that like every generation has this. And, interestingly, my mom teaches me stuff about the iPhone all the time, all the time. And so I think there's like a capacity for older people to learn this stuff. It's just like a mindset thing, but I don't ever discount like older people when it comes to technology because my mom all the time is like, "Do you know you can do this?" She has to like give me tutorials to use my iPhone sometimes.
You should take a video of her, just put it on YouTube, make money off of mom.
Exactly. And honestly, I was like, you could make a whole like TikTok account with you showing other people. Like they would love this. A 65-year-old woman like showing people how to use like new technologies for
Yeah,
sure.
it's a niche.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think of that? Is that because most of the people that uses iPhone, half of the stuff that iPhone can do, we don't even know. And I've been using iPhone since I have iPhone 2. Is
Yeah.
that bad design or bad marketing?
Well, I think it could be both. I think there's some things that I definitely didn't know I could do that my mom showed me. So I think that's just bad marketing on their end. But also, like, maybe they're putting in features that people don't need, right? So it's like, are you just doing this just for the sake of innovating and to look cool? Or is this actually like solving a problem? Or you're just trying to solve a problem that never existed to begin with. This is a whole nother tangent, but this is how I felt about the folding televisions. You know about this? It's like for a while, the electronics industries were like obsessed with creating TVs that folded. Like, yeah. And the whole reason was like, oh, if you live in an apartment, you're always moving apartments. It's easier for you to move your TV. And it's like, okay, you move once every few years. Like, it's not like the rest of the time it's sitting there stationary. Like, I don't need to fold yeah. So there's some things with technology. I'm like, you guys are just trying to make it look cool and there's no
Yeah.
purpose for this.
Yeah, I agree. Going to your point about TVs, remember a few years ago they used to have this like curved TV?
Yeah.
I'm like, and one of my friend bought it and he was like so excited. Look at this curve. You can see on the side perfectly. Like, first of all, why would you sit on the side? Sit in the front. Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you need to position your sofa differently.
Exactly. I hate bad designs. Like like recently, my mom was like, "Oh, I'm thinking of buying the foldable phone." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Why? Why? What's the point?"
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
don't know.
don't
It
I
looks
don't get the
cool.
foldable thing. I really don't. It's like it's not an issue for me to want. I never in a million years did I ever think, man, could I fold my electronic device? Never.
I think it's more nostalgia.
Aha, for the flip phones.
Yeah, for the flip
Yeah, but
phones.
then just bring the flip phones back. So that's an option for people. I don't know why you're trying to like do both.
Exactly. Like I always talk about that you cannot have progress and expect that everything stays the same.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to move forward, and unfortunately, when you move forward, you have to let go other things.
Yeah. But also, it's like, I don't think we need to constantly, this whole idea of progress, like we think, oh, the next new thing, the next piece of technology, that's progress. And I'm like, is it? Because it also could just cause more problems for us. And is that really progress, right? So, like with the iPhone, it's like, yeah, it's great. It's more efficient. You basically have a computer wherever you go, and it's like convenient, but at the same time it causes addiction, right? Like we can't be off our phones anymore. Social media is a whole other conversation. Like, is that really progress, so I think like oftentimes we try to solve problems with technology, and I don't necessarily think it always should be the technology route. Like there's a lot of analog ways. Like the curb cut is a great analog like example that you can like fix issues that doesn't have to be high tech stuff. Like it's so mundane. The fact that people don't notice it means it's good design, right?
Great design, yeah, exactly. I love that. Like the other day, I was looking at a stop sign, and it's like stop signs are red. Those are great design for me. Like you going to your point that you don't have to have it digitalized to be a better design. When
Yeah.
you're designing personally or thinking about design, what's your main priority?
For me, it's to include non-designers in the process. Because I think designers, like based on what your training is, what your background is, you have so many biases that go into design, and what you think is good design might not actually be true for the people who are affected by it. So my big thing is like in order for us to actually include as many perspectives in the design process, we have to include non-designers in this in every stage of the process. So the people who are actually going to use this, the people who are going to be affected by this, there are unintentional consequences and impacts of the things that we create. So we need to kind of think ahead on that
You mentioned AI. How can we better prepare ourselves for AI?
to learn more about it. Really and truly, like I think there's a misconception that it's like, oh, if I'm not like in tech or like this isn't going to affect me, it's going to affect everybody. The only things I think it won't affect are like the kind of manual labor. I don't think there's going to be a lot of AI in actual like big machinery. The reason being is it's very costly. I think right now all of the funding is going towards like software AI, so just making computers more efficient rather than building like robots and stuff. You will see that, but I think more attention is going the other way. So I think it's going to affect all of us directly and indirectly. So the only way to help yourself is to learn more about it and learn how it can affect you so you know what to do, whether that's like adopting some AI tools in what you do. So then you're ahead of the curve because, maybe the market is going to demand these skills now, and you don't want to be behind. Or if it's something that you don't like, to be able to like get other people to know about this and like rally around that maybe this isn't good and we should all be actually talking about this, and drawing attention to it. So I think it's just educating yourself as much as you can with AI. And there's so much out there. I mean, literally, you just go on YouTube, you can find people talking about AI. It's the best way, I think.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, for the record, I love ChatGPT, bro. Like, if I have to write something that I'm so lazy, I'll just
Yeah.
type in words. I'm like, yo, write this as an email, whatever. Bam.
Yeah. No, I use ChatGPT every single day. Like it's
100%.
It's great. And it's also for like brainstorming, like as a designer coming up with ideas and stuff. And it's like you don't always have someone here to talk to. So you just go on AI and you're like, okay, help me develop this idea. And then you get all of these options for ideas, you know? So yeah, I think ChatGPT is great for kind of
Yeah,
having
100%.
something there.
Like I have a friend that works for a technological company. They program like those chargers for the electric cars.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's programming and he says if he wants to focus on the most complicated one and the easy one, he just wants to like whatever, he'll just type it in on chat GPT. I'm like, yo, fix this.
Yeah.
And it will fix it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I was like, yo, you can do that? He said, yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I do it all the time.
I hear coders too, like if they have a problem with their code, they just will paste it in and it can kind of help them find and like refine their code. So
Why not make your life easy?
that's what yeah, exactly. And
You
I think
know?
I think it's useless to completely push back at AI. It's going to happen, you know? So it's just a matter of how we use it. That's really important. And if we can find a way to make our lives easier by using it, why not? You know?
Yeah, referencing 99% Invisible, there was a episode about Laudites, people that hates technology
Mm-hmm.
or the
Mm-hmm.
future. It's this is what it is. Like, are we
Yeah.
gonna push back or are we gonna like this is gonna happen and let's find like you said, figure out a way to make it help us out rather than be detrimental.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the key there, I think, you know, but at the same time, I have to like talk about that it right now AI is being developed by like business people and business people with a lot of power and a lot of clout, right? So, you know, we have to figure out a way to like democratize how we create AI because it could be really dangerous if only a few people or even a few nations are really the ones developing AI to serve just a small group, right? So yeah, I think to be able to know more about AI is actually empowering as just a normal citizen because you're aware of what's happening. You can talk about it. You know, you have you. It's almost like you can give like some validity in what you're saying, right? I feel this way because I know X, Y, and Z. So I think it's like so beneficial for us to just like know more about it and research it on our own, even if we're like non-tech people.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like teachers,
Yeah,
like elementary or high school teachers, like how can this help you? Because kids will use chat gpt
yeah,
without a doubt.
for sure. And it's happening. You're seeing it happen, you know? And I think like if I was a teacher, my approach would be, okay, in the workplace, like I use ChatGPT in my work. Most people use AI tool, some sort of AI tool in their work. You're not actually preparing students for the real world if you're preventing them from using AI. So my approach to teaching probably now is to figure out, okay, what is a good way for me to teach to allow my students to use AI, but use it in a smart way, right? So rather than completely banning AI, like lean into it, you know, and like figure out a way to like teach AI that works for you and works for the students too.
I saw this online. I don't know what this lady is, but she was talking about this pretty much the same topic. And her suggestion was if you want the students to write an essay about something, let's say I don't know, the mountain, ask them to use ChatGPT and then ask them to edit that whatever ChatGPT wrote and edit it to their voice. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, that's a great one step. Is it the answer 100%? No, but it's one
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one like new approach that is better than just telling it, hey, write me this essay, right? There's at least a thought process happening. I've heard other teachers also do this thing where if you use AI, you have to write something separate that says how you used AI. So then it's kind of like how when you write a research paper and you use sources from somewhere else, You have to then tell the teacher what parts used AI and how you did it. So then there's like more of a thought process learning there, right? You're asking them to critically think about how they're using the tools.
Speaking of different ways of learning on a different topic, you went to the States to study, and then now you went to Prague to study. What are the differences that you see in the educational system between the two?
Well, one, I think it's the cost. A huge reason why I went here. I'm going to be just perfectly honest here. 2 years of a master's program here, even with the relocation, like literally uprooting my life and starting over here, was cheaper than a 1 year program, and like way cheaper. It's fractions cheaper. So, or fractions of the cost. So, yeah, one, I think the price is way too high in the US and it doesn't need to be. I really don't think it needs to be. And two, another appealing thing, the program I went to here is incredibly international. I was one of the handful of Americans there. There are students literally all over the world. There's students from the Philippines there. So the in terms of like the approach to learning, it's very multicultural from the start. And also, I think it's important with design, like, again, design affects different people differently. And so to be able to really think about that and study that, it's important that you're in a room with different people. And I think the US mindset tends to kind of be more narrow, like what is the, American way of doing things, or like designing things that only affect the US, whereas here it's more of like a globalized approach. How do your designs affect people in different places? So, yeah, I think those two things.
How about the testing? I know you know how Americans have standardized testing. What's the difference with Prague system?
I think in Europe, there's less of an emphasis on grades and also what school you go to. Like in the US, it's like, oh, the dream is to go to an Ivy League. And if you go to an Ivy League, you have access to all of the school or all of the workplaces that you can apply to, right? Like, and then there's these networks that get you connected. Here, it's like, it doesn't matter where you went to school, like, name doesn't mean anything. It's really like, I think there's more of an emphasis on like critical thinking, rather than like concrete grades. And this is not, it's different for every country in Europe, obviously. Some probably emphasize testing more, but at least what I'm seeing, in kind of Central Eastern Europe, it's more of like that critical thinking, creativeness, rather than like pure test scores.
Is there like, I'm sure there's some prejudice in Prague or where you are. How does it differently? Do you feel welcome there, or were there times that you're like, yo?
Yeah, so interestingly, there's actually a really large Vietnamese community here. Like I see Vietnamese people just as often as I see Czech people here. So I think people think I'm Vietnamese, which is
You
honestly
could pass.
fine,
You could
right?
pass.
Like I was like, that's fine. But I talk about this a lot with my friends because I feel more American here than I do in America. And the reason being is that when people ask me, where are you from? When I'm here, I just say, oh, I'm from the US, right? Because that's where my citizenship is. And they don't question it. They're like, oh, cool, from the US. But people ask me in the US, where are you from? They mean like, where are you originally from? Where is your heritage? I can't just say what state I lived in, right? Like I can't just be like, oh, I'm from Georgia. No, what they really mean is like, I'm from the Philippines. And then I had to do this whole explanation thing. So I think day to day, like, uh, I feel pretty welcome. I think, uh, from my experience with Czech, it's really the language thing. If you don't know the language, it doesn't matter who you are, they're less open to you. So, I try to speak Czech as much as I can, but obviously it's a difficult language, and so I fall short every time. But I think it's more of a language thing. That's a barrier.
Same here in Quebec. It's a little bit of that. That
Yeah.
you're not judged by the color of your skin, but what the
Yeah.
words that comes out from your mouth.
And so can you speak a little French?
When came here, I spoke a little bit because I was going to school, and then I moved to different company, and I started working in an English company, and that was that, man. I my French was like from kind of janky elementary to like toddler, you know. I
Yeah.
try, but it's just like you said, confidence, right? Like comfortability,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm not really in a position to have to learn because when I started here, I used to work at this burger stand, and I was working with this like Quebecois ladies. I mean, I'm talking about old granny ladies, and does not speak a word of English,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Wow.
So I was forced to speak French, which was good
Yeah.
for me. But bro, I was like, ugh, I'm dying over here, man.
Yeah.
I love languages though. I do enjoy it, but I don't know why. But I think my brain hit that age that like, you know what, dude, the story's closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're not learning anything about this stupid thing. You're good.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the opposite. Like the older I get, I feel like the better I am in languages. Like I took French in college, 2 semesters of it. I can't speak French. I took 2 semesters. I can't speak it, you know? And then now, like, because my husband's Polish and we spend like holidays in Poland with his extended family. So literally 2 weeks don't not much English because they only know Polish really, a few words in English, but mostly Polish. So literally 2 weeks just Polish. And I can understand really way better than I thought I ever could Polish, which is a difficult language as well. But I'm able to like pick up patterns and like pick up the tone. And I'm
The
like,
code.
I'm like going backwards. Exactly. I'm like going backwards. The older I get, the better I am. But yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Earlier you were talking about your workshop, Future with Friendly People. Well, what's the story about this and why you started it?
Yeah, so when I was in my master's program, I ran workshops at conferences throughout Europe. So mostly with academics, design practitioners, students. So it was more of like a formalized design setting. And, part of the reason why I started my Instagram was to democratize design and get normal people to think about design, think about the future, and like feel like they have a say in that. So I started thinking about a way to create workshops that included everyday people and do it in a way that didn't feel like you had to be a professional or have to have a background in this to be able to design. So I kind of adapted a method I was using to make it more approachable. And this is why I call it Futures with Friendly People, because I think I want to have it come from a place of joy. Like I want this to be fun. I don't want this to be a serious thing. It should be a place of like discovery and like going back to our childhood where we're thinking about different ideas and trying new things and being creative, right? And also, I think it's quite intimidating to be in a workshop with strangers. It's like I always want to create a space that's like welcoming for people. And so this is why I'm like, this is Futures with Friendly People. We're all here because we're not jerks, and we all like want the world to be a better place. So if you believe in that, this workshop is for you. So I run these workshops online. Right now, there's like two different versions. One is Futures Visions, where we're basically doing digital collages. So if you think about like being a kid and collaging using like magazines and stuff, that's literally what we're doing, but like on a digital whiteboard. And then I have another one called Future Stories, and that's creative writing. So you're writing flash fiction about the futures that you want to happen. So yeah, it's really just a way to involve everyone in the process of thinking about the future.
Very interesting. I like that. Sometimes I'm like, should I join? And I'm like, I don't like groups.
Join, join.
I'm
I'll let you
trying.
in. I'll
All
let you
right.
in.
I'm not promising it. I don't like groups. It just like it irks me so much. My level is three people. That's it. Go over that, I'm like, I gotta go, bro.
Well, what is it about groups then that you
There's
don't
always
like?
gonna be an asshole that will say stupid shit. I'm like, bro, I got to go.
Okay, I've run three of these and we haven't had that person. So
Well, maybe
hopefully,
that's gonna be me.
yeah, maybe actually, if this happens to you a lot, maybe,
Yeah, no, 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 no.
no, I'm just
It's
kidding.
like, okay, so we have this like, well, I am, by the way, but I'm like a dictator. So we have this three group of bikers. Like I go cycling like
Uh-huh, okay.
100 kilometers, whatever. And one of my friends, he's super friendly. I hate this guy. He used to be a bartender. He loves everyone. I hate him, but I love him. And he always wants to like, oh, we should add people. I'm like, bro, if you want to start a group, you start a group. I'm gonna bike myself. I'm not adding no one. I have you, and then this guy over here, and then that's it.
You're like, this works for a reason, okay? Why are you rocking the boat here?
Exactly, you know, no, because it's just especially. I'm not talking about like designers or whatever the workshop that you do. It's just there's always gonna be one that's gonna be like soup, like no, it should be this way. I'm like, my G, I gotta go.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Hey,
know,
but that's part of like I actually like that. I've run workshops where people challenge what I say or challenge what other people say, and I'm like, actually, I like this, like
yeah,
this spices the group up a little bit because I don't want groupthink all the time.
no, I like that too. I like challenging. Let's say in the group, I'm kind of like the leader, right? But I always ask people an opinion. Like I'll say like their opinion. Like, yo, it's either we're gonna go left or we're gonna go right. What's your opinion? I know what I'm gonna say, but what's you gonna say? And then this the reverse of like people that are not bossy, the one like, oh, I'm whatever. I'm whatever. I hate those people too. Because I love hearing opinions.
Yeah, yeah.
Like tell me why am I wrong? What
Yeah.
tell me.
But see, then the group needs you. Groups need you then because most groups are like, oh, they're trying to like please the group, but you actually have an opinion. So
No.
I think you should show up in groups more.
I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna promise, but I'm gonna try. If I just vanish, means I left, you know. But because that's me. Like I'm 41 years old. I don't have time. I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
I don't have time to waste. Okay.
Halfway there. Really? You think
I,
80s?
okay. You're the smart one. All right. Like I said, an average Canadian man lasts up to 80 years old. I'm
Really?
41.
Wow.
I'm right there.
I
I'm
feel like
getting there.
I don't know. I feel like with AI, we're gonna like vastly improve modern medicine. So my husband he turns actually 41 next week, and he thinks he's gonna be over 100. He's like, I'm fully convinced. And my reaction is, do you want to be over 100?
Yeah. Do
Like
you
with
want to be?
the way the world is going, I think I'm fine passing at like 90s, maybe
Yeah.
90.
9 is solid. 9 is solid. 100 plus. Also, obviously, depends on the quality of life, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're like 100 and you're bedridden, bro, pull the plug. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's like, yeah, do you want to keep going? Like,
I gotta go.
there's nowhere to go but like literally the bed that you're sitting in. So,
Yeah. Going back to your workshops, you said that there's like a group of design and then there's a group of creative writing and there's like a collage of like whatever, a digital
yeah.
board. Do you just like, hey, let's create a robot today and I will throw blue arm?
No, there's a very specific process that we go through. So, there's a method I've been developing since honestly my first semester of my master's program. It's called the phenomena method, and the reason I named it that is because I like the idea of phenomena. Like, if you go to like the general definition of phenomena, it's something that is remarkable that just exists. And so what the phenomena does is it's designing with values. So typically with design, it's if you're doing the design thinking, it's like more of a complex or it's an elevated problem solving process. Um, But what Phenomena tries to do is we're designing what are the core values you care about as a human being, right? So it might be joy, play, community. These are values that already exist in our world. And this is why I call it Phenomena Method. These are values that already exist in our world. How do we figure out a way to repurpose, sustain these values and make sure that they're still present in the future? Because one of the things that I think about with design is that if we're just constantly designing to solve problems, I feel like we're going to be in a constant state of problem solving because new problems will always come up every single day. And we also don't know if our solutions are contribute to building a world that we want. It could just be solving a problem. And then we're like, actually, we don't like the way this solves the problem, or this makes us feel bad, or like this makes us addicted to technology, right? So it's like, it's not really a positive design solution. So what Phenomena does is it takes you through that process of how do you start with values and use values as a way to design. So part of it is storytelling. And I always say storytelling is like the great equalizer. Like we all have stories to share. We love hearing stories. So this is a different way for us to be able to design and come up with ideas is telling stories. So there's a lot of storytelling in the process. But basically, yeah, we choose values that resonate with us and then we create using those values.
Is it so you plan it? It's free, right?
Yeah, so they're paid, the workshops.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a way for me to make it sustainable because again, it's not just we all show up and do whatever. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. And yeah.
Yeah. Also, when it's free, people just like, I'll show up, but not really.
Yeah, I ran a free workshop a week ago because I wanted to make it more accessible for people. And there were like 9 people who registered. They had to be admitted because I wanted to make sure that they really wanted to be in this and they weren't just like, let me add myself to a list. So they had to like send in a short thing of why they wanted to apply. But I basically approved everybody. But then only 2 people showed up out of like the 10 that registered, right? So it's like I give options for free things, but and I sent emails saying if you're gonna not show up, cancel because this is highly participatory. I need to know how many people are showing up. But there was only one person I think who formally canceled. So yeah.
Okay, because of that, I don't know, like it didn't work out, right?
I
What
wouldn't say
still?
it didn't work out,
Well,
but
no, for it did work out, but in a sense, like as the amount of people, the amount
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah. It wasn't what I
uh,
was expected for sure.
exactly, better word.
Well, I just want to give the 2 people a shout out here that like it was quality over quantity in this one because the 2 that showed up were amazing. Amazing, amazing. I actually almost cried in that session because of just how amazing they were. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. See, that's why I like small groups.
Yeah. So then this is why that I was like, actually, it turned out okay that only 2 people showed up because I don't think we would have gone this deep and like gotten a chance to really know each other if there were actually 10 people on this call.
Yeah. See, if there's a lot of groups, there's gonna be voices. People are talking over each other. It's
Yeah.
like when you're sitting on the table with your family and they're just chismissing the whole time. There's like 4 conversations going on, nothing's happening. You
Yeah.
know. So I'm like, no, let's have 1 or 2 or 3, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
I don't like surface conversation.
Yeah.
For me, my mind's like, this is boring. There's nothing happening here. I'm not learning anything.
Yeah. I don't think anyone does, but it
No,
always
no, no, no.
somehow.
There are some people that love
Really? You
surface. Oh,
think?
yes, I know a few people that are like, yo, and I'm the rude one that will say, this is the most boring story I've ever heard. Do not tell me that again. You wasted my time.
You say this to strangers too?
I like if I'm
Anyone?
not straight up stranger. If it's stranger, I'll just walk away. But if it's like someone like I'm close to, I'm like, can you please get to the point? Because you're boring me.
Yeah. Hey, you need that sometimes. Some people just talk and talk and there's no purpose.
Yeah,
You need
like
to. steer the car in the right direction.
Yeah, especially with my brain, it's like there's a problem, let's fix it. It's fixed, let's move on. I don't need to talk about the problem again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, in the designs, how does it work? Do you guys, once you create something, we saw the result. Do you guys still talk about the result, or you just move on to the next one?
So the kind of design thinking process basically is like you gather in the beginning, there's four steps to it. In the beginning, or five, I guess you could say, you gather as much information as you can in the beginning. And then you like condense all of those ideas into like things that you can test. And then you test those ideas with people. So whether that's like I'm creating a new website, so let me build a prototype of this website and test with users and get feedback on it, and then you improve. And generally, this is where it stops. Like then it's like, okay, I've already tested, improved on the designs, it's finished, and then you deliver it. But and there's some designers that talk a lot about this is like that long-term impact of designs. So I actually think it's important to still go back to what you've designed and figure out a way to continuously improve it because there are things that you didn't catch the first round. So it's important that we keep going back. And this is true, I think, especially for the phone. I think the big reason why we're addicted to our phone was like one feature, and that's the endless scroll. Right? There's never a bottom to it. It's bottomless. You just keep going and going forever, basically. There's only been like, I think a few times on Facebook where they're like, that's all. Like, have you ever gone there? Like
Yes.
Facebook sometimes we're like, that's it. That's all we can show you today. You've gone
I'm
to
like,
the end.
what? No, I want more.
Yeah, but see exactly this whole reaction of like, wait, what? Like, how did I get to the end? But if you think about the early days of the internet, you have to go to press page 2, page 3, page 4. Even the early, like, I think Instagram was like that, right? You have to like, and people would stop because they don't want to keep pressing the page. But this endless scroll, right, made us stay on our phones like 10 times more. And it's like, yeah, we need to revisit that and think about, was this a good design choice? you know?
Yeah. I guess it's good for the company, but bad for people.
Yes. Like, who is this really for?
Yeah. You know where that idea came from, right? The
What do you
endless
mean?
scroll.
Maybe not.
It's from the slot machine.
Aha. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See,
So
you
they,
taught me something.
hey, sometimes, sometimes. But yeah, apparently it's from the slot machine. Because people that plays in Vegas or like video like
Yeah.
slot machine,
Uh-huh.
they'll just like boom, 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 play and play and play endlessly.
Yeah. So it was literally created to be addicting.
Yeah, because when you're like, oh, I want to refresh my page. You just do one of these and it just
Yeah.
refresh.
Yeah. Also, I find it funny that, okay, so I'm still from the generation where this means phone. Now it's this, right? And I'm like, wow, this is just that to me is mind blowing.
Yeah, what's so funny? I did that test last night to my wife and my son.
Yeah.
My wife was like this, like a fist, like picking up the phone like this. And then my son was like, he was holding the phone like this. Like he's holding an
Uh-huh.
iPhone,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It wasn't as bad. Like, people do this, like the finger, the thumb and the pinky.
Yeah.
But they're like, and my son was like, why are you doing a fist? And my wife's like, because you're picking up the phone.
It's like, what are you picking up? That's not a phone.
There's one thing I love about having these kids and me. Our age is not that far apart, to be honest, but I love that their future. I could see their future,
Yeah.
and they have the window to the past. Like the other day, we saw a reel about this guy in his car took out the radio. Remember? I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
remember. You used to take out the radio because people
Mm-hmm.
steal them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My son's like, why would he take out the radio? I'm like,
Yeah.
because back in the days, it's very expensive. People goes in your car and steal the radio. And he
Yeah.
goes, what are you going to do with the radio? You're going to go or walk around with it? I said, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Like when I was car shopping, like buying a used car, it was important. Like, how's the radio? Does the radio work? Like, I need to know, That
It's
was
very
important.
integral, man. Hey, listen, Ruth, I think we're there. But before we close out, I want to ask you this one more question. How do we plan for the future while enjoying the present?
That's a good question. Um, One of the things with my workshops, the thing that keeps popping up, and it's the same phrase over and over, is that I feel anxious about the future. And I think that's like a general sentiment that we all have with the current state of the world. I think the biggest thing is reminding ourselves that there are good things in the world. And this is what I try to, when I'm designing, this is what I try to focus on is that the values that we care about, and the things that we care about, they exist. It might be in small pockets, but we need to figure out a way to like amplify that, you know? So like whether that's spending an hour just hanging out with friends or like watching a comfort television, I don't know, like it could be anything. And we need to like place focus on those like little things that maybe we take for granted every single day, but that actually bring us a lot of like joy and peace, and all these values that we like. So focusing on in the present, the things that already exist that we like, and then maybe that'll help when we're thinking about the future if we feel anxious about it.
Wise word from a wise woman. Again, Ruth, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Awesome. Have a good day.
Yes, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Again, Ruth, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.